Around now, I guess people who want to wear masks or don't, that's really up to you. But I think it's safer still a little bit in a crowd. I really like to welcome everybody to our 38th season, and I couldn't do it without a lot of people on my committee. People like Steve and Bob and Tim that put up chairs, and Eddie that works the sound, and Chris who's been helping with our webpage and our flyers. And I apologize, we ran out of flyers because I didn't know everybody was going to show up tonight. And so that's great. But if you fill out those white forms that you got and put them in the Mr. Peanut, we'll do a drawing for free tickets at halftime. And then you'll also get MailChimp. If you have emails, we can send you full information about each show. And if you didn't have a reservation, the way to do it is just simply, my phone number is there, you leave a message, I need 2 seats for Mr. Smith, and leave a good phone number and I call back and let you know that I have your reservation. People with early reservations usually get sitting closer to the front, and it's our silly little way of doing it, but we think it's a nice way of doing it. To let people know about things. And I probably forgot Eleanor and Deb and Michael and Sheila in the kitchen and ushering, and my husband Joe, who took your money, which is a good thing, because like for the last 2 years we have been streaming, but we've been relying on donations, because I don't really like to say, all right, if you want to watch the show you must put in the money, because sometimes internet works and sometimes it doesn't. So if you have enjoyed any shows online, we appreciate the donations, because we still like to pay our performers. We like to make a donation to the church, and also to Brian Dozer, who we would not have been able to do streaming. So yay to Brian, helping us with a lot of tech. So that's been great. I made friends with Ed and his wife Lillian way long time ago when Linden Tree was just started. I think I was over at Lil's house. We had a play date with my Rachel and her Rachel, and all of a sudden this guy comes in and I go, I know you from Linden Tree. So that was the beginning of a fun relationship, and when she didn't want to go to anything banjo-ish, hey, I got to hold a banjo and walk in and go to banjo nights too. So, which I thought was great, and Joe didn't care because he didn't want to come either, or not as often. We appreciate the banjo in different ways. So, just to start, Lillian would like to say a few things.
Thank you, Liz. Liz, can you hear me okay? Liz is right. I'm not a big fan of the banjo. My favorite instrument is actually saxophone, and every time I play, I didn't play saxophone, but every time I had a jazz playing in the house, he'd say, turn that screeching noise off. So our relationship was not built on music, but I want to, let me backtrack a second. I want to thank Liz, first of all. Liz, this was her brainchild. As she mentioned, we were going to have a celebration of life about a year ago here, and it didn't work out because COVID raised its ugly head once more, and we just couldn't do it. And to be honest with you, I had pretty much given up on the idea of doing anything until Liz came up with this idea, and she just ran with it. I didn't have to really do anything. It was amazing. I'm so grateful. And to everybody who was involved with this. I also want to say, and maybe some of you already know this, Ed loved this place. He loved it. It was like his second home. And as many of you know, that he actually died of Alzheimer's, and as his Alzheimer's was getting worse and he was forgetting more and more, including who I was, and believe it or not, you get used to that. He forgot who his kids were, he forgot where he lived, he forgot his own name, but he remembered the Linden Tree. That's how much it meant to him. He actually tried to walk here. Granted, we don't live that far away, but he tried to walk here. I had to follow him along in my car just to make sure that he was going to be okay. And he was devastated when he saw that it in fact was closed and nobody was there, and brought him back. And he did it once again. That's how much it meant. So Asa said this was like his second home, and you were his people. He loved every single one of you. He loved the crew. He loved all the volunteers. He loved the regulars. This really was such a huge part of his life. And as I'm thinking about that, I want to encourage all of you to take some of his CDs home. These are not of him playing. This is his own personal collection. Liz, where are they at this point?
They're on that side table.
Oh, okay. So if you haven't had a chance to grab some of them, because I'm really looking to get rid of them, and I know that sounds terrible, but if he were here somehow, he would want the music to be shared. He would want you to go home with a whole bunch of them and to listen to them and maybe give them away too if you want. You can even sell them if you want. But he just wanted to share. And for those of you who knew him well, you knew that's what he did. That was his life. If he had knowledge, he wanted to share it. If he had stuff, he wanted to share it. He didn't share money. I was kind of glad about that. But he was a giving person. And the last thing I want to say is that, as I said, he had forgotten everything. And a few of you saw him towards the very end, and you know this. But he could still play. He could still play music. He could play his guitars. He could play his banjos, not like he used to, because again, if you've ever heard him play, you knew the skill he had. He didn't have quite that skill, but he did far better than 99.9% of anybody else could have. So my last comment to you is, if you ever hear somebody say music is not important to life, that we don't need it in the schools, that it's fluff, it's not necessary, all I can tell you is that was not my experience. He played, I think maybe 2 days before he died. I mean, that's how important it was. And it was a different part of his brain. The other parts of his brain were not working, but that part was. And that's what we all need. So please advocate for that. Please don't let anybody say music is not important to us. It is so important to us, I can tell you from experience. Thank you for listening.
Well, one of the early years.
Liz, if I could just make a correction.
Yeah.
The free CDs have moved and they're now over here. That's CDs that he's giving away.
Okay.
They're over here.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm only up here to get abused. Back a long time ago, on one cold winter night, we had a young man who was in high school show up at the door. Didn't really know what was going on here. He knew there was some woman singing, and I think somebody handed him some hot chocolate, and he became our Linden Tree. Every once in a while, he would come and play an open mic. He disappeared for a while, came back. He was better than ever, and now he's even better than ever. And Kevin Moore, he wrote, it's called Church Without a Steeple, but to me, it's the Linden Tree Anthem. And he played it, sent it to me, and it turned out it was a couple of days before Ed had passed. And I said, oh, Ed has to hear this. And unfortunately, he didn't get to hear it. But then meanwhile, Bob Tanner, who you see taking pictures a lot, put some pictures together, and I'm going to attempt to put the slideshow on while Kevin sings Church Without a Steeple. It might take a second to warm up, I think.
Thank you very much. Ooh, check 1, 2. Thank you.
Oh, you project better than Liz does. I gotta put that in game back.
Why is it not? It's warming up.
Something drew me to her, old bruised and battered, cold winds and a warm open door. I came softly spoken as she tore my heart open, tales I was never told. The basement held a full house, and a voice selling memories, and the man with the banjo knows that the sound's just important as the words and the music, and he'd follow wherever she goes. I was only a child, my eyes wide and wide, in a room where the listeners know I was welcomed like family by all the fine people in my hometown of Wakefield, in this church without a steeple. And I only want to play for you a song that I wrote her to on the old stage at Linden Tree. She sang from an angel's grace, her voice was a warm embrace, and the strings were the choirs above. My eyes began to water with all that life taught her, the life she once dreamed of. She spoke about love in an old baseball glove, and the whole room seemed to know the tune. She showed us our fears, and how could he leave her, and she sang of Matilda too. I was a wandering young kid, my hair kept my face hid, in a room where the listeners know I was welcomed like family by all the fine people in my hometown of Wakefield, in this church without a steeple. And I only want to play for you a song that I wrote her to on the old stage at Linden Tree. Now I've grown and I've missed her, it's been years since I kissed her, the old room still looks the same, and I can see familiar faces, I can still feel the traces of a young boy forever changed. And the man with the banjo smiles because he knows these songs will always be here. So good night, all you fine people in this church without a steeple. And good night, my old linden tree. Good night, all you fine people in this church without a steeple. And good night, my old linden tree.
take a little break to take the screen off, and then we will be able to continue. A lot of those people have been here. Some of them are in the room today, and some will be back. Oh, yeah, we lost Bill Staines this year too, in Staten Island. Bill Staines was supposed to play in my living room in December. Passed away a couple weeks before. Scott Aller passed away the year before Bill.
Go back up. But the legs have to slide up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's looks on. Getting this all on tape. Okay, this is not.
What did you?
We were doing so well.
We know who broke it when they asked.
Our next trick.
Yeah, one thing.
Want that, Ed?
Let's save it for now. Okay, we got everything?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. All right.
Oh, we always like to go.
Their pay will get docked.
Tough to get good help for that.
I know, it is.
Tough to get any help.
Just get it down. All right. I got other things to do.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
so, memorial performers,
All right.
come on up.
That's right, you want all the, should Dawn talk first and then?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Dawn is here.
All right.
My glasses are all fogged up, I'm sorry.
Okay. One of Ed's last playing partners is John Borchett, and he's going to just talk a little bit about playing with Ed, and they're good partners for a while.
I guess I can lose this for now. But now I gotta put these on. I wrote things down because I'm not gonna read it off, but I might have to take a look at it now and again. Some of you might understand how that works. I wanna thank Liz, this is a wonderful thing she's doing to remember Ed.
Excuse me, we need to have you speak into the mic.
Into the microphone, okay. Let me try that again.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Alrighty. Well, it's been an awful long time since I've been behind a microphone. I want to thank Liz. This is just a wonderful thing she's doing to remember Ed. And I also want to say that Lillian and Rachel and Allie, you were just a gift to Ed. Anyway, Ed and I started playing music actually back around 2000. And we'd known each other before that, but we were at a jam session together, a picking party in somebody's backyard, and we happened to be sitting next to each other in the circle. And we were astonished at how well our two kinds of banjo playing, my three-finger picking and his climber, how well it sounded together. So when the break came, we snuck off into the corner of the yard, and we sat under a tree, and we just played music between the two of us. And we liked it so much, I invited him over to my house the next week, and then for the next 10 years, he came over about 2 nights a week, and we just played tunes. We did a little singing, but mostly we just played old fiddle tunes, tunes with strange names like Whiskey Before Breakfast, and Grasshopper Sitting on a Sweet Potato Vine, and what's the other one? See, now that's why I got it. Oh yeah. Shove that pig's foot a little closer into the fire. which is, by the way, my favorite tune. So we did that for about 10 years. And when I retired in 2010, after spending 34 years spending your tax dollars like a drunken sailor, I called him up and said, hey, something I did when I was in grad school, let's go into Harvard Square and go busking. And he says, well, I don't know about that. I've never done it. I said, come on, it'll be fun. He says, well, and then finally, to sort of put me off, he says, well, I don't think Lillian would let me do it. So that was at middle of summer 2010, and all winter long I kept saying to him, now, we really should go next year. You're going to really enjoy it. Well, I don't know. And then finally, he said somewhere around March or April, he said, well, okay, I'll go ask Lillian. And he came back and he said, you won't believe it. She agreed right away. It was about 5 or 6 years before I confessed to him that I had already called Lillian and I talked to her all about it. And I knew ahead of time she was going to say yes. But anyway, he really did enjoy it. And we went out as soon as the first day hit 60 degrees, we would go out to Harvard Square and play, the two of us. And we would did it every year and I remember one year, one of the merchants came out and said, like our first or second day out, and he said, oh, you're here. We've talked about it around here, and we all said, you can forget the flowers coming to bloom. It's not spring here until the banjo players show up. And we had a great time. He loved busking. He loved it, especially the little kids that would go by and get so excited. We used to let them come up and strum our banjo strings to see how the banjo sounded, and it was just the most fun. Well, around 2016, I noticed he was starting to get a little confused, and a mutual friend of ours by the name of John McGuire had retired, and I said, John, will you come on down? I thought John's fiddling might help Ed hear the tunes. Now, it was just a start. Up till then, we'd play 6 hours out there from 8 a.m. We got there at 8 a.m. to get the spot we wanted before anybody else did. And we'd play from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and we'd never repeat a tune. But somewhere around 2016, he started to get a little confused, and I just thought, okay, we're all getting a little older now. But I called up John, and will you come out and join us? Oh, yeah, because I thought his fiddling would help Ed hear the melodies. And that did work for a while. And John was wonderful. John was, he couldn't be here tonight, but John was just wonderful with Ed. He was very gentle, and he was, and because of John, we were able to keep going out to Harvard Square for a couple more years, till about the middle of 2018. So that makes about 18 years that I was sort of a, picking partner with Ed, and I will say, Ed was just a beautiful musician. He was just a wonderful banjo player. I don't think he appreciated how good he was on the banjo. He did things, especially rhythmically, that I never heard another banjo player do. He was a huge influence on me. He really molded my playing, and I will never play as good as I did when I was playing banjo duets with Ed. And so what I want to do now, there's a recording that I dug out that Ed and I made about 2006 or 2007, and it's a medley of 2 tunes, Child Grove and Sally in the Garden, 2 tunes from the British Isles. Well, that's it. do believe that could be our audition for the Angel Band. Thank you.
Now could I have, I guess we want all the next group of intermission people, before intermission people come up, Linda, Blood Instruments, Rich, Tim, Gail, Linda, Ben, and take a seat up there, and then I'll introduce one by one. We're trying to make this not last till midnight.
Put the lights on,
Maybe
please,
hard.
Bob.
Yeah.
A little safer. Thank you.
My goodness, we got black and blue. It's only for the leg. Oh. Thank you, Dawn, because Dawn, a lot of times Dawn and Ed, and they let me carry in a banjo too when we would go to Johnny D's for old timey night, and I miss that because that was really fun to be there. And we're going to have the Blood Instruments back in Linden Tree history. Back in 1985, there was a group of people that decided that the church should open a coffee house, because a lot of the churches back then were doing that. So under the linden tree started, and there was a linden tree right out front of the church that at some point we will replace. And all of a sudden there was Paul Hardy and Bill Knott and several other church people, and then Ed Britt came down and decided that the sound wasn't very good, so he volunteered to be the sound person and was our sound person forever. And then we got Eddie, which made it very easy for all our performers. Yes, go see Ed and Eddie, and you'll get sound. So the Blood Instruments, at various times we had 5 people in it. Usually it was 4. Usually it was Jim Bradley on his bass, and Paul Hardy could play multi-instruments, and Bill Knott would play guitar, and Ed would have his banjo. And they would tell me to be the sound person sometimes. If Ed is playing his mandolin band or his minstrel banjo, turn it to this place, and if it's the other banjo, turn it this way. And I'm like, okay. And I did the best I could, so I really appreciate having real sound tech people here. So we're going to start off with Jim Bradley. He's going to do a song, and then we're going to bring up Paul Hardy, and then we'll bring up Bill. So we got 3 out of the 4 blunts, but Ed better be listening.
Thank you, Liz. It's sort of strange to be here. Not that I haven't been on this stage before.
Excuse me again, this mic seems to be slipping.
Well, better than me slipping, I guess. All right. Boy, that's daunting. I've been on the stage before, but almost always Ed Britt was up here with me. And I don't feel too alone because my brother Bill and my brother Paul, my blunt brothers, are here, but it's really strange not to have Britt here. Of course, that's the reason we're here, is because we miss him and the incredible influence he was in our lives. So this is all to thank Britt, and hopefully he's listening, and to acknowledge the way he influenced our music, our friendship, my life certainly, and I suspect a few others here. I also, before I go on, want to say thanks to 2 other people. One is Lillian, who has been a good friend and very patient with us for a long time. And the other is Liz. Oh, and Allie and Rachel. Lil and Britt's daughters are also here. So please, when we take a break, greet them. The other person to thank is Liz. None of this would be possible if it wasn't for Liz. So I met Britt, I don't know, sometime in the early 70s. He was in industrial design at Syracuse University. I was a grad student. He had helped organize a group called the Salt City Songminers. And it was, as was often the case in the 70s, a group of people who just got together, sat in a circle and sang songs and played what instruments they could play. I thought that was a great idea, but, well, it wasn't for me at that time. A couple years later, it turned out Britt and I were both working for the Onondaga County Parks Department in their historic sites office. He was doing exhibit design and I was a site manager. So we got to collaborate on a lot of different things, and of course we ended up talking about music a lot. So he finally got me to go, and it was a great experience. It was probably 15, maybe 20 people. Every other Sunday night, we'd sit in a circle. You could request a song, you could sing a song, or you could pass. And I would say we were all fairly mediocre with a couple really good people there, a few instruments. But over the next couple of years, that group grew, and we were soon singing harmony. Lots of other people picked up instruments. Britt thought I should play mandolin, but these big peasant hands do not play mandolin, so I played the bass. Anyways, it was a great time. In 1979, my wife Peggy and I had both graduated, and she had a job. I didn't, so we moved to Boston. And I thought, wow, this has been great, but that's probably the end of it. I'd started playing the bass by then. Well, a year later, guess who moved to the Boston area? Britt and Lil. And I guess it was fated that we were not done yet. So that is where the blunt instruments came from, and I will let Paul and maybe Bill say a little bit more about that. One of the things that was great about Britt is he really encouraged people to participate. Sing a song. You know, if you're not great, who cares? You know, we've all been in the not great position, and most of us have grown to some place where we feel pretty comfortable. And it was that way about singing, and it was that way about instruments. So he encouraged me to play the instrument that I felt most comfortable with. So I brought it with me. It's a lot smaller than the bass, a lot easier to carry around, and it doesn't require tuning. So I'm going to play a song. What I remember about Britt mostly is sitting around, as Don was saying, playing tunes, swapping them off, you know, covering for each other, filling in, switching to something else. Just sort of that casual, comfortable enjoyment of music together. So this song, called Cripple Creek, I think of as we're sitting on the front porch on a nice summer evening, just playing music and enjoying each other's company. Hey, I'm going up to the head of the creek, want to see my girl every day of the week. Kiss her on the mouth so sweet and fine, wrap myself around her like a honeysuckle vine. Going up Cripple Creek, going on a run, going up Cripple Creek, have a little fun. Going up Cripple Creek, going in a whirl, going up Cripple Creek, see my girl. Them girls up Cripple Creek sure have grown. Jump on a boy like a dog on a bone. Roll my britches up to my knees. Gonna wade old Cripple Creek whenever I please. Going up Cripple Creek, going on a run. Going up Cripple Creek, have a little fun. Going up Cripple Creek, going in a whirl. Going up Cripple Creek, see my girl. Now all I want to make me happy is two little boys to call me Pappy. One named Sam, the other named Davy. One loves biscuits, the other loves gravy. Going up Cripple Creek, going on a run. Going up Cripple Creek, have a little fun. Going up Cripple Creek, going in a whirl. Going up Cripple Creek, see my girl. Thank you, Mr. Britt.
Paul, you next? I think Paul already. And I think, is that with you?
Yeah.
Doing
Okay. We do a song, or I can do the solo, well, what?
Do your solo.
I'll do my solo. Liz very kindly said I could play any instrument, but that's not quite true. I was in a band with Ed, and Ed was, as you heard, is an excellent banjo player. So I seldom play the banjo in his presence, but this is the one I've always liked. Doc Watson recorded it, and Clarence Ashley. It's called Little Sadie. This is a reunion of the remaining blunts, and I hadn't talked to Jim in several years, and I only see Bill every once in a while when he's up from Florida. We're gonna do this one with you and moi. I mean, me and who, whatever. So I'm gonna actually look at the words to this. This is a parody which you may recognize. Well, actually, before we do this, I just want to do a word or two about Ed. I moved to town here in '86 and came down to the Linden Tree and thought, this is a great place, great bunch of guys and people that volunteer and stuff. And I went and met Ed, and his fame had sort of preceded him. I worked with a couple of guys that were banjo players or concertina players that knew of him. He said, "Oh, you're moving to Wakefield, and you should look for this guy up." So I did. He said he has more banjos than almost anybody in the world, and he's irascible. And he was. But I joined these guys, and I was running the sound, or I owned the sound system or something, and I was booking the place and doing a pretty bad job of it, because sometimes there'd be no performers, sometimes there'd be two performers that were supposed to be the head act. But anyway, he was a wonderful guy and a generous guy. I had a job where I was doing for a professional organization, doing a mailing list and where we were going to eat and doing all this stuff. And I had to put it out on a Macintosh. The Macintosh that I had was very small, but he was a industrial designer, so he had a giant one that I could see and make my edits. And so I would do it and be getting it done. I'd say, "It's good enough," and he'd say, "No, it's not good enough." No, of course it's not good enough. You have to move these in. You know, I'm a sort of slapdash guy in general, but we got it, and he wouldn't take a penny for his help. And we would usually spend one morning a month doing that. And he's just a wonderful guy. And I almost didn't know how good a banjo player he was till I listened to him. In the context of the band, we'd often get on each other's nerves. And, well, I heard a couple of these banjo players here today discussing various aspects of Arcania and the banjo world. And so he said, "This is the song by Wade Ward." And he played it. And I said, "It doesn't go like that." And he said, "Yes, it does. I got it off the Wade Ward record." And I said, "But I got mine off the Wade Ward record." And so he says, "What year?" And I said, "Oh, mine I think was 1946. He said, "Mine was 57. And mine, sorry, what?" So we were dueling folklorists and doing that kind of stuff. So we were passionate about what we loved. But I didn't realize how good a banjo player he was until I would listen to him, not in the context of the band, because I got my own responsibilities, but he was a remarkable player and a very generous guy and a stubborn guy. If anybody out there, if you knew him. But at any rate, we used to be here often, and we were the house band really for the Linden Tree, and often would play, and it was wonderful. But Ed had one weakness in the banjo world, and it was tuning. Now, I don't know how many of you experienced this, but I would be generally the MC in the band, and my friend Bill over here had a nice guitar, and he has a nice strum on it, and Ed would not go further in the evening until he tuned his banjo after every song. I would finally say, "Give me the effing thing, I'll tune it in a second, and we'll get on." But I listened to tapes of the shows, and it was interminable. It was amazing anybody would still be there at the end of a song. But my friend Jim over here, in that spirit, has written this song. It's a parody. It's called "The Tuning Song." Tune, 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 tune. We got this year just the other day, and now it's time for us to play. But while we are ready, all you wanna do is tune, 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 tune. First that string was sharp, now you think it's flat, now it's time to slide. Forget about all that, audience is waiting, and all you wanna do is tune, 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 tune. We started out in G, then we went to C, now it's time to switch to A. Only trouble is, gee whiz.
you've got to try. And that is why we should be playing. All we wanna do is tune, 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 tune. We started out in G, then we went to C. Now it's time to switch to A. The only trouble is, gee whiz, we're tuning the night away. So I was standing here, and that is why we play. All you wanna do is tune, 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 tune.
When the Blind Instruments got together in '85, it happened one night here at the coffeehouse, and Ed was on sound, and he needed somebody to give him a little, music for him to get the system ready to go. And so I played Early Morning Rain, which he said, why don't you join me in Charlestown over at Jim Bradley's house? And so I hadn't met Jim yet, and that's the first time the Blind Instruments got together. So Early Morning Rain was the song I played, and Ed always liked the version we had of it, and that was really my tryout song for the Blind Instruments. So I think we'll do it tonight. In the early morning rain, with a dollar in my hand, and an aching in my heart, my pockets full of sand. I'm a long ways from home, and I miss my darling so. In the early morning rain, with no place to go, way out on runway number 9, big 707 set to go. But I'm stuck here on the grass, where the cold winds blow. Well, the liquor tasted good, and the women all were fast. Well, there she goes, my friend, she's rolling down at last. Well, hear the mighty engines roar, see the silver wings on high. Westward bound, high above the clouds she'll fly, where the morning rain don't fall, and the sun always shines. She'll be flying over my home in about 3 hours' time. Well, this old airport's got me down. That ain't no earthly good to me, but I'm stuck here on the ground, cold and drunk as I can be. You can't jump a big jet plane like you can an old freight train. So I best
wall picture frame, and it has a picture of Ed, who was winner of the banjo fiddle contest, the old-timey division a few years back. I think he won it several times. But our next act, she's just recently won a blue ribbon, I think. And I welcome Linda Abrams.
Okay, you're joining her? Well, Paul,
Oh, yeah.
sorry. Yeah, you stand, just do what I do over here. Okay. Anybody else want? I can stay up here all night. Oh, we're in A, are we not? We're going to be in A.
Not just yet.
We're potentially in A.
Things to say.
Okay.
Give me a second, I'll talk yet.
You want to tell a story about Ed?
Yes, please.
You have my permission now.
Okay.
I think we're ready now.
Okay. Well, I met Ed probably 30 years ago at a session at Sandy Sheehan's in Cambridge. And I was a very shy person. I'd never played in front of anybody. And he was so supportive and just so wonderful. It was really hard for me, but he was great. And then I went to Lowell and I heard him play that tune, Child Grove, and I was stunned. And so, you know, we talked. I told him how much I loved it, and, you know, we became friends, and every year at Lowell, you know, we always sat together. And, you know, he did design work for Ohm, the banjo company. And I don't know if you all saw his banjo, but it looked like it belonged at Versailles. It was all gold. It was beautiful. And so Ken Perlman here had just gotten his first banjo from Ohm, I believe, through Ed. And he called me and Ed and another friend over to give our opinions. And my opinion was that I need one of those. And Ed was great. Here it is. And, you know, he worked with me on it. And the neck is custom for my little flippers. And, you know, he came through. Oh, there was something else I wanted to say. Yes. So he also encouraged me to play at the contest, which really wasn't something that I really wanted to do, but he told me how to win the contest. So I'm going to share that with you all. So he said, what you have to do is have a good introduction, you know, play some variations, and, you know, have a good ending. You know, he didn't mention you have to practice this tune for 4 years, but, you know, that was the case, and, you know, that all worked out for me, too. And I sure do miss him. He was a special guy for me. So, okay. So the tune is Steamboat Hornpipe, banjo other.
one message from Mary McCaslin out in California. When she used to come out to play, usually after the show, we'd end up at my house, and Ed would come over, and usually about 2 or 3 in the morning, I would have to kick them out to go home. But one of the things I remember he did, they came up with Mary, not all banjo playing is old-timey. Mary McCaslin put a few Beatles songs and Pinball Wizard to the banjo, and there is something that she used in her recording that Ed actually, they figured out one night at our house. So that was a good thing. And next we have Rich Stillman, who I think, didn't we have something at the Luthiers? Like there was a whole historian a day, we did a whole day of banjo. I guess they let me come, and maybe I took money or made coffee, I don't even know what, probably not coffee. And we were there till all day, late at night. And Ed also would do presentations of the history of the banjo for different clubs around town and around the area too, because he just knew a lot. So Rich, come up and you can.
Rich, you gonna stand? I can't remember what you told me.
Sit.
You gotta sit, okay. And when Tim comes up, you're gonna sit. Sit. Sit, okay. So when that time comes, bring that up and we'll adjust those for you, okay? So, don't talk yet because it's not open. Yeah.
Am I here now? Oh,
I think
yes.
you're there.
I think there's a little too much of me. You can turn me down up here anyway. So when I moved up to the Boston area in 1984, a friend of mine from upstate New York said there's this guy in Wakefield that you need to get in touch with and get to know. He said his name is A.C. Fairbanks. And so I moved up and dialed the number that he gave me and said, "Hi, is this A.C. Fairbanks?" So impressed that there was still people from the Fairbanks family living in Boston. And Ed, of course, knew, first of all, that he knew who would put me on to him, and he knew that it was okay to talk to me. But Ed and I hung out a lot in those early days, and we would get together every once in a while and just kind of trade banjos and trade banjo stories. And Ed, among other things, was an absolute fanatic about banjo setup and getting the best tone out of any banjo. He was always, particularly with 3-finger banjos, he was always pursuing this ineffable quality that he called voop. And so the best thing he could say about a banjo was that it had voop. And so I'll play this. I played this for Ed, and he liked it. And hopefully I'll play it for him again here today. This is Stephen Foster's "Hard Times." I'm still here.
I think they'll be able to hear me.
That's Tim Rao.
Hi there. No. So, I too met Ed at Sandy's. He was a great guy. I don't know if I can talk too much more than that, although in 2006, I had a small music school in Lexington, and Rich did some teaching out of there, and I did, and
It's gonna be, your voice will sound better if you talk into the microphone.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't mute the mic before I started to move it.
okay.
So I'll apologize to the audience.
All right.
Sorry, audience.
And so in 2006, I had a little music school, and I had some jams, and so maybe it was a precursor to the Borchelt Britt dynasty. But one night, well, almost every time I had the jam, if Ed and Don were there, they were the last ones there. And everybody left, and it would be the three of us playing kind of three-way banjo. I'm lucky enough to have turned on my phone and made some recordings of those days. But Ed was, I've been playing climb or banjo for more than 50 years at this point. And I was always stunned, by his right hand. I mean, his choice, his taste, everything, his phrasing. But his right hand was really a thing to behold, and I think Don Borchelt said it earlier. There were just certain things that he could do rhythm-wise that I rarely hear anywhere. So I'm glad to have this chance with Rich to kind of bring back some of that double banjo fun that we had in those days.
Deep as I can be. Tuning.
I like this song. I like it. setting up Ed to get out of the house. That was good. I wonder why my wife always just says, go. All right. A little bit more serious note, not a song, but really a great Scots-Irish tune. That kind of considered anytime one of our dear banjo friends leaves us. Seems to be happening more and more. I'd like to think that Ed would like this particular one. It's called Highlander's Farewell.
Somehow she would always bring nice weather, and she's always been one of our Linden Tree favorites. Up on the bulletin board, I found from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, she was supposed to play here with Canadian Dave and Gunning. I can't believe I couldn't remember. I'm getting old. Dave Gunning. So if you see the bulletin board, it's now scheduled for, I think it's April something. I just changed the date on it so that she can come back and do the set she was going to. So Gail Finney.
Oh, well, this was so lovely. Hi, Lillian. Haven't seen you in a while. So I've played here probably at least 15 times, maybe a few more than that, and Ed was always the sound guy, and he perfected the art of miking my dulcimer, which is not that easy to do. And so I only really knew Ed through the Linden Tree. I didn't know that much about his other musical interest other than being a fabulous banjo player. And a couple years ago, for about, I think it was over the summer, for about 3 months, I was lucky enough to be his companion a couple hours a week, just to sort of spend some time and get Lillian out of the house. And so we would take walks, and he was always such a gentleman. He made sure that he'd be on the outside when we would be walking through the neighborhood. And we'd go to get ice cream, and we would go to the music emporium, and we went to the guitar center so he could play some of the guitars. He was very, of course, opinionated about what guitars he was playing. And he had a room, there's a room upstairs that was just full of banjos. I had no idea that he was such a collector. So I would bring my dulcimer, and we'd swap songs or we'd play things together. And nothing really sparked too much with him until I played this song, Cotton Mill Girls. And the light bulb went on, and he sang the chorus, and it's like Lillian said, he was there. He remembered that I had done that song here. So I'm going to do this one tonight for Ed. And thank you, Liz, for putting this together. It's really lovely. Sorry about that. Somehow this must have gotten banged. So this is a traditional song that's got really good, easy lyrics in the chorus. There we go. I worked in the cotton mill all my life, and I ain't got nothing but a bottle of knife. It's hard times, cotton mill girls, it's hard times everywhere. It's hard times, cotton mill girls, it's hard times, cotton mill girls, it's hard times, cotton mill girls, it's hard times everywhere.
intermission. And intermission, there are all the coffee, tea, snacks, cookies. We normally, for new people, we usually had homemade baked goods, but with COVID, we have things safe. But everything's $1, so help yourself. And there's 2 bathrooms if you're new here. And then we will come back with Hubby Jenkins, who came in from New York. And CD, oh yes, and there are the CDs over there that Lillian does not want to take home, and there are some good ones there. I actually found one of Gail's I guess I thought I didn't have, so there's good ones. And so our last one for tonight is another local area regional performer of banjo, who is excellent, Ken Perlman.
Hi, folks. It's amazing to be in public again. Yeah, I also moved to the Boston area in the mid-'80s for the first time. I guess there were a couple of episodes there. And I was trying to remember exactly when I met Ed, and I can't. Somehow he was always in and around banjo music and old-time music in the area, and somehow we gravitated together. And I was always very happy to see him. And then it turned out sometime in the 90s, I was living in East Arlington, and Ed decided to go freelance, and he got himself a studio, or part of a studio. It was kind of a co-op, and it was maybe just a few blocks from my house in an industrial building. And quite often, late in the afternoon, if I didn't have any students that day or whatever, I would walk over or drive over to Ed's studio, and we'd sit and shoot the breeze for a while, and he never said, you know, oh, I'm busy designing, you know, leave me alone. So it was never anything like that. So, and he would talk a little bit about what he was designing, and he always had this dream of designing banjo inlays. And he apparently developed a relationship with the Ohm Banjo Company in Boulder, and a banjo visionary named Chuck Ogsbury. And Ed had this vision of designing a pattern, an inlay pattern for banjo that was totally new, but also completely in the spirit of the great banjo designs of the turn of the last century. And he so impressed the people at Ohm that they adopted his design. And one day he was there playing, as Linda described, this glowing gold-plated banjo with his design. That was his pay. They made a banjo with his design up and down the neck. And I said, Ed, that is a gorgeous banjo. And he said, well, you know, I bet they would want you to have one. And so he arranged then to have one. And I remember at first I was a little skeptical. You know, I said, well, can I have to try it out first and see if it will project, because if it doesn't project, you know, then it won't work for me. And I remember taking it into a jam session, and it, like, you know, blew everything out of the water. It's just a great instrument. So, you know, Ed was somehow there for many milestones in my life. For example, he was there the night I met my wife Andrea, and of course Tim organized that event, and that was over in this little music school that Tim worked at. But anyway, this hasn't been a very good period for banjo players. we lost we lost Ed a while ago. We recently lost Steve Arkin, and we lost Art Rosenbaum, who's a role model of mine when I was coming up. Anyway, so I'm going to play a lament now. This is a Scottish tune. It's called Neil Gow's Lament, written by a famous 18th century composer. And it may be the first time it was ever performed on banjo. Anyway, so I'm sending this out to Ed and also to Steve and Art. And the second tune I'm going to play is, I remember when I did a recording with my old, now late performing partner, Alan Jabbour. Ed was the person I called and said, can I play the prototype for you and see if you have any suggestions? So I remember we were sitting in the basement listening to the recording, and he was extremely encouraging. He was the sort of person who would point out to you all the cool things you were doing that you didn't even realize that you were doing. And so anyway, this is I'm going to go into one of the tunes from that recording, Southern Summits, and it's a version of my favorite version of Bonaparte's Retreat, which is another tune about loss. And Alan Jabbour collected it from Henry Reed of West Virginia. So here we go. Gow's Lament followed by Bonaparte's Retreat.